Hello and welcome to the chaos. It is Sunday morning, so this video should hopefully be going out today, be a same day video. And this one is going to be kind of a market recap rundown of my big Toy Fest market that just happened yesterday. So first I'm going to show you a few clips. I didn't get a whole lot, but I got a few clips setting up, tearing down, that kind of thing. So first I'll throw in some of those, and then after that we can chat about the market and how it went and my thoughts and some funny moments and all that good stuff. So I'm going to throw those clips in for you now, and while you're watching those, I'm going to go fix me a cup of coffee, and I'll meet you back right here. Welcome to Toy Fest. We are all set up. Let's see if I can. Oh, my hand's bugging. So we're in the. This is the behind the scenes. I don't know if you can hear me. It's kind of noisy in here. But we are ready to go. It is 9 o'clock, so it's open for early bird, and then 10 o'clock is when it opens for everybody else. So I will check in throughout the day if I can. Try to keep up with this vlog a little bit, but like I said, it's noisy. I meant to bring my microphone and I forgot, so I don't know if you'll even be able to hear anything I'm saying. Might have to put subtitles on, and I will check them with y'all later. Okay, so it's 9:50, so we've been open for a little less than an hour for the early bird. It hasn't opened yet for the free customers, and I've made my first sale to another vendor, I think, and it was my toothless dragon for $65 and a Soot Sprite keychain for $10. So good start to the day so far. Second sale of the day, R2-D2 turtle and a manatee keychain. So, and it's only 10:11. It's only been 20 minutes since the last sale, so things are picking up. It's looking great. Okay, 11 o'clock, second big doll sale. Sailor Mercury sold for $85. And besides that, I've also sold several of the little critters, a bee, a Leafeon, an R2-D2 turtle, and a bunch of the mystery boxes have gone. And a couple of people tried the claw machine. Hi, I'm back. I got my coffee in my dinosaur mug. I got this from the Creation Museum. How cool is that? In Northern Kentucky, which, by the way, is an awesome experience. If you ever have the chance to visit, I highly recommend it. It was so fun. I actually managed to catch this clip with my son while we were there. Almost right when we walked in, there's like dinosaur animatronics everywhere, and there's some like up above, and he's looking up at these animatronics, and the look of just awe and wonder in his face, and he's looking up and he says, "They're real. They're really real." And just, oh, it was fantastic. The kids all had such a great time. I can't wait to go back again. Highly, highly recommend. It's an awesome attraction. Okay, so you saw me set up on Friday, and then I had a couple of clips in there during the market itself. It was really noisy in that little room I was in, so let me kind of try to set the scene for you, describe it a little bit. So the Salvation Army puts this on every year. So first time I've attended, they don't usually have crafters. I think he was saying this was the first year he was inviting like crafters and not just comic book, video game, vintage toy people. So I was the only crocheter there, which was fantastic. And I was, really, really pleased with that. This was also the first year that they wound up spreading out into 2 buildings. So this is the Salvation Army's, the main building is the one that they use for like kids after school programs, and they have like a library in there and a video game room, and they do classes and things like that. That's what the main building is used for. And then they had a separate building that looked like it was kind of more of like offices, and then they had like a really, really big room that I'm guessing might be some kind of a conference room or something, but that's where they had us set up, in the second building. So I was in the second building, which was totally fine because that is also where the kitchen is, and that was where they had the concessions, and I was actually right next to the concession. So anybody coming to get food was standing right by my booth. The first building had the guest celebrities, and they had 2 different rooms of vendors set up in there. Well, actually 3, because there's a room with the guest celebrities, and they took up most of the table space, but they also had a couple other tables of other people. Big room off to the side of that with vendors, and then a smaller room off to the side of that, more vendors. They did a great job putting up signs everywhere, pointing out where everybody would be. And I feel like they were probably like making sure to tell people too where all of the vendors were. They weren't just leaving people to wander, because we had plenty of people coming into our room. It did not feel like we were forgotten or left out at all. And there were even some people that came in that I asked them, did they find anything cool in the big room? And they're like, wait, there's another room? Like we were the first ones they'd come to. So somehow they'd managed to come in the side door or something. I don't know. But so I think they did a really good job managing the flow of traffic. It was never like slam busy. We kind of got waves of people coming through, which again is fine with me. It can get a little stressful, when it gets just super slam busy with customers and you don't have a moment to think. So it was nice to be able to take a few moments in between waves to restock the shelves and tidy up the tables and that kind of thing. You probably saw from that first clip that I set up a little differently. If you've seen my setups before, I tend to have more of like a U shape with the tables, and I just basically throw everything I have out there at once. It winds up getting very cluttered looking, which has worked for me in the past, but I felt like I wanted to be able to highlight things more this time. So we took a different approach, and I had my grid wall set up to where one side was facing where they would be in line for concessions, and the other side was facing inward toward my booth. And it's still completely visible from the outside. And then I had one table in front of me that was like my checkout table. On that table, I had a stand of mystery boxes, a stand of my 3D printed dragon eggs with my mini dragon snugglers in them, and then space in the middle that was kind of like my checkout station. And I had like one plush that I would promote at a time, and if that one sold, then I would replace it. To just kind of highlight, and then the table to my left, we've actually pulled inward to where we just had like a narrow aisleway, just big enough for my chair and my 2 girls to sit behind me, to kind of create our own hallway for people to walk along the outside of that table. And that table is where I had all like the $15 little critters and the $10 keychains and things like that. So that worked. I like the way that setup worked. The inner wall that was facing me is where I had all my character plushes, and I had them hanging on the wall using those they're like long spikes that sort of hook onto the grid wall, and I would hook 2 of them like really close together so that the neck portion of the doll would fit in, but the head would be above it, and it would just kind of dangle. And that worked out really nicely. People could see those really easily, but they couldn't just ground down and mess with them. So, and that was kind of my intention. So I like that setup. I got into the Hub Fest next weekend, and this was an unexpected one. So next week it'll probably be another market video like this. I just found out about it the other day. Like, I know roughly about it and that it happens in Hattiesburg, but I've never attended because it's huge crowds, and I don't generally attend things with huge crowds. But I was like, I wonder if they still have spots open for vendors. And I think it was the Holy Spirit nudging me, like, you could do this one. So I threw, because I was almost like, no, they won't have any spots left. It's a week out. There's no way. And I almost didn't apply, but I just felt that littlest nudge, like I should do this. So I applied and I got in. So I'll be doing HumpFest next weekend, which is probably the biggest street fair that my city holds. And Hattiesburg is a pretty decently sized city because there's a university there. So there's a ton of people. So I'll be doing that next weekend. And I think I'm going to copy this setup that I had for this one at that one. Now I'll be outdoors there, and I'll have a 10 by 10 tent. So I'll have a little bit more room to spread out, but I'm going to try my best to copy that as much as I can. Of course, I don't know exactly where my space will be. Like, I had essentially a corner space at this one yesterday, and I don't know that I'll have that type of setup at HubFest. So I'll just have to wait and see when I get there. But that's what I have in my mind to try to do as best as possible. So, yeah, and I checked in with you guys a couple of times in the morning. After lunchtime, I didn't really do any more recording. My phone battery was getting a little low, and I didn't want to use it up. I have a backup battery charger, but I don't like to depend on it if I don't have to, just because I don't always know that it's going to be enough. I don't feel like it's a guarantee. So I wanted to make sure I had enough phone battery to continue to do my credit card charges. So I didn't record anymore. Also, it was noisy in there. Even when there weren't a lot of people in there, the vendors were all chatting. It was noisy in that room. So I did, yeah, that was the last of the recording I did. So let's get into sales. Now, I think I told you in my last vlog that I kind of changed up how I put things in my Square app. So now I don't have names of things. I just have categories of prices. So I'll go through the Square one first. And I think I can mostly remember what sold at those price points. And then I did write down the names of things that sold in cash because I keep those separate. Because the Square one charges for credit card processing fees. Um, and I'm, of course, not going to charge that on cash. So let's see. I sold 3 of the $10 items with credit card. So $10 items were either mystery boxes or Soot Sprite keychains. That's what I had out for $10. I had other keychains too, but they didn't ever make it to the basket because I had the Soot Sprites out first. So I know I sold probably 4 or 5 mystery boxes total. I sold 2 or 3 Soot Sprite keychains total, and I sold a manatee keychain because somebody has specifically asked for a manatee, and I wound up pulling that out of my keychain bag. So that'll account for all of the $10 things from either list. $15 items on credit card, I sold 7. So those are all the little critters. Most of those are Poggy's Place patterns. Some of them are a few other little patterns that I found on Instagram for free. It's just kind of a really random assortment of things, but it's all stuff that is like about this big and takes me less than 30 minutes to make. So that's what all the $15 items were. $25 items, I sold 3. I know one of those was my Percy the Possum, which is my pattern. One, I don't remember what else sold for 25. I think one of them might have been a turtle, a small turtle. Can't remember what the other one was. And one of my kids sold something when I went to the bathroom at one point, so it may have been that. $65 items is the next price point in Square, and that I sold 1 of. And that was Toothless. And that was actually, it's in the clips. That was the first one that sold during the day. And that was to another vendor. I think she must have come and set up after I had finished on Friday because she said she had seen it Friday night and knew she wanted it. So she was literally first thing in the morning at my booth buying Toothless, and she also bought a Soot Sprite keychain at the same time. And then $85 items in my Square. That's the highest price point that Square has recorded. 2, and those are the Sailor dolls. And I've got a funny story about those that I'll tell you later. So those are 2 of my character plushies. So moving on to cash sales. First cash sale of the day was an R2D2 turtle for 25. Then the manatee keychain for 10. A Little Critters B for 15. A Soot Sprite keychain for 10. 2 mystery boxes for 10 each. Claw machine. Let me go ahead and just give you a total count on those. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 plays on the claw machine. And I did $1 each for those this time. Normally they're like a $5 or $6 play because I have little crocheted plushies in there. But this time I had found this package of tiny little characters. Sorry, my eye itches. That were pencil toppers, I think. And they came in these like little spheres, little plastic spheres. And I ordered them on, I think it was Temu. Was it Temu or AliExpress? One of those two, where you get things really cheap. So they were pennies a piece. So it didn't bother me to only charge $1 to play for those. And I thought like that would just be a really fun thing that kids could do that, maybe only had a couple of dollars to spend. And so they couldn't afford all the big plushies, but they could have something fun. So I had 6 plays of the claw machine for those. And then Little Critter Leafeon. Okay, so I did have one box of the little critters that was specifically Pokemon, and it was all the evolutions. And it was a pattern test that I had done for Fox and Faye Crochet, where she made all of the evolutions into bees. And I took them and I did the bees for the pattern test, but then for mine, I left the wings off and I left the eyes off because then they look like those little Disney Tsum Tsum dolls, the ones that look like pills, basically. So they were like evolution inspired little pill dolls. I don't know. They were ridiculous, but people liked them. So I sold the Leafeon one. Then a guy came by, and this is the story for the sailors, and he bought Sailor Mercury. He said it was his daughter's favorite sailor. First, he asked me how much she was, and I said she's $85. The characters are $85. And he's like, I don't know if I love her that much. And I kind of laughed. I was like, I understand, but the characters have all the detailing and all that. That's really the price that they have to be. But if you think she'd enjoy something else, I have several other lower price points. That's more your jam. And he stood there and he thought about it and he thought about it and he thought about it. And he was finally like, I got to get it. It's her favorite. I got to get it. So he bought Sailor Mercury and was happy. I bagged her up and I think did he get something else at the same time? No, his son was there and he played the claw machine at the same time. So he got Sailor Mercury. He was happy. He walked away. And I made a few more sales. And then 10 minutes later, he came back and he goes, I got to have the other two. They're her favorites. I got to have the other two. So he bought the other two, and that was in the credit card because he didn't have any more cash. So he got Sailor Moon, Sailor Mars, and Sailor Mercury because those are the sailors I had taken with me to the show. And then he asked if I did any of the other characters. I was like, yeah, I do them all. I just didn't have time to get them all made before this. So he took my card, and he may be looking me up later for more sailors. And then I sold, here's Percy Possum 25. So the 325s, $25 sales on the credit card. I'm not 100% certain what they were, but they were all similarly sized items to my Percy the Possum. I think one of them might have been a mushroom. And then I sold one of my 2 extra large sunflower turtles. Those are the ones that are like this big around. They're made with Parfait XL jumbo yarn. Coffee break. They're the ones I showed in a previous vlog where I hand painted custom sunflower eyes for the sunflower turtle. And the guy who bought that was a guy who had actually come by the booth 2 or 3 times by that point just to talk and talk a lot. He had a lot to say. Well, he had a lot of questions. He ran a card booth in the other building and did like Pokemon cards and Magic the Gathering cards and all that kind of stuff. And his girlfriend, he said, crocheted. And I think he said they'd only been dating a couple months. So this is a fairly new relationship. So he's, still in that stage, that butterfly stage, deeply invested in all her interests and that kind of thing, and just trying to learn more about her, which I thought was adorable. And he said that she was going to have her first market coming up. Very first time she was going to try selling these kind of things. And I was like, well, I wish her all the luck in the world. I think that's great, And then so he wanted to ask me a lot of questions about markets and how they work and how I figure out how to price things and that kind of thing. So we wound up talking for a long while the first time he came by the booth. And he came by several more times when he came up with other questions after that. And then it was like the third time, I think, he came back and said, I was telling my girlfriend about your booth and describing your stuff to her. And I was describing the sunflower turtle because she loves sunflowers and I call her my sunflower. And I thought that was really cute. And then he stopped. He said, I stopped mid-text because I realized I could buy it for her and it would make her so happy. So he came over and he bought the sunflower turtle. So that one was big. That one is $125 is my normal price, but he asked me if I could go any lower. So he wound up buying it for $110. And then the next thing on the cash list was a little critter hot air balloon. Those were the ones that I had made, 2 years ago now, I think, for the hot air balloon festival in Hattiesburg. They didn't have it this past summer, so it was the summer before that. Um, and I still have a few left. I made so many. I made like 25 of them or something ridiculous like that, and I have so many. So many still left, but people enjoy them. I mean, they see them, they think they're funny, and every once in a while I'll sell one. So I sold one. Then I sold a Kirby on a swing for 15 and one dragon egg. This one is in my daughter's handwriting, so she sold this while I was away from the table. And that was my 3D printed dragon eggs, the smaller one. I had lots of attention on those all day. People loved looking at them, opening them, seeing all the different colors of dragons inside. People were excited about them, but I didn't have any takers for most of the day. It was almost at the very end of the day that someone finally bought one, and I was kind of surprised. I thought those would go a lot better. Um, Maybe I need to take the price point down a little bit. I couldn't go down much more than to like 40 though. I couldn't take it down much more than $5 and still, pay myself for my time and my materials. So I don't know. We'll just see. We'll see how they do at Hubfest. I'll have them back out. So, but the one dragon egg, I think it was the one that had toothless in it. And then I sold the Beetlejuice duck that I had made Halloween time, I think. A blue mushy pop for 15. Echo the Bat for 25. That's a Poggy's Place pattern. That's one of her bigger patterns. And it's really fast and really cute. It makes up for a really, really cute little bat toy. I'd made 3 of those for Halloween, and I think this was the last one I had left. And then one Stardew Valley blue chicken for $15. I was kind of surprised that those didn't go faster as well. I thought there'd be more Stardew Valley fans. I did have several people recognize them. Junimo. I think that was the $25 thing. Yeah, because I also had 3 Junimos, so somebody bought a Junimo. Yeah, and that was how it went. So I'm gonna see. Looks like I had the best sellers, of course, were the little critters. They always are. So there were 7 of them in credit card, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 13 total of the little critters. $10 items, 3 in credit card, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 in cash. So 7 total of the $10 items. So the little critters, the $15, that kind of mid-range price point there, definitely sold the most. $25 items was 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So they kind of tied for the $10 ones. Bigger plushies, I sold the one $65 and 4 for $85. No, 3 for $85. And then the really, really big turtle. So it was a pretty good day. Altogether, it wound up being, I totaled up yesterday, but I didn't write down my total, but it was over $900. It was like $960 or something like that. And let me see, can I find out what my booth fee was? I think that's in my, I think I paid for it by PayPal, maybe? I cannot remember now. It should be in my messages with back and forth with the guy that was running it. So let me check those real quick. $50. Okay. Yeah, there it is. So it's $50 for the booth fee, which honestly isn't too bad for a setup like that. Like for example, the Hub Fest next weekend is going to be $200 to set up there. So I'm not unaccustomed to slightly higher booth fees, and 50 is on the low end. So that was great. And I think it went fantastic. Apparently, I just saw on their Facebook page, apparently they had a whole vendor dinner Friday night. How funny. I had no idea they'd even done that. They all went out to dinner after getting set up. I got set up kind of in the morning, and I had other things to do that afternoon, so I would have had to miss it anyway, but that's fine. That's really funny. That's really cute that they did that. So they're having the show again in August. I've already said that I would love to participate. because I think it went fairly well. I'm going to get my same spot back again right next to the concession stand. So, yep. And I'll have more character plushies and stuff there. And we'll just see how it goes. I think it went great. I think the next one will go great. I did start, work on this dragon while I was there. I had 2 of the legs done already from previous. And then I got there and I realized that I had forgotten to bring her eyes. I'd meant to grab them. I thought about it the night before, and I'd meant to grab them and take them with me so I could work on her while I was there. This is Jenna's latest dragon pattern for the ones inspired by Fourth Wing. I've already made Tairn and Darna, so this is Sigale. So I forgot to bring her eyes. So I was like, well, how am I going to do this? So what I wound up doing was I made the head, and I stopped at the point in the pattern where it said we were going to be working on the neck, and I left the head unstuffed and open, and I finished her off right there. And then I took the pattern, and I scrolled all the way down to the bottom, and I started working from the tail backwards. And it worked. I have Row Counter, the app, which is through or connected with Ravelry. I don't know if it's like the same company or if they just like sync up or something, but she can sit up there for a minute. It's like I can't show you my screen on my phone because you guys are on my phone. But it's like a red rectangle with 2 numbers in it, and it's got like yarn piled on top. That's what the icon looks like. But it has a counter in it, so I was able to set the counter at the number of the final row, and then I just counted backwards. I hit the minus button instead of the plus as I went to keep myself on track, and I just worked the entire thing in reverse, basically. So anywhere it said to increase, I decreased, and anywhere it said to decrease, I increased, and that sort of thing. And as you can see, it worked out just fine. And when I got up to the row at the end of the neck, where the next page it would have been mostly the head, I stopped the body at that point, and I just stitched them together. Which, if any of you have ever done Winnie the Dragon from Red Mills Crochet, that's how her dragon pattern works. You do the head, and then you start at the tail to work up to the neck. Or you might do the head last. I can't remember. But you wind up attaching head to neck. I'm not sure why exactly she does it in that order. I like that Jenna's, you start at the head, and it just flows into the neck and down the tail. And I have actually modded the Winnie the Dragon pattern myself to make it do that, but that also requires using my brain backwards. Because on hers it's normally worked the other way around. And it's a little more difficult with hers because she is shaping. So it's much easier to do with Jenna's. But I had done that already with Red Mills pattern, so I kind of had an idea of how to get it done properly with this one. So it worked out. I got it almost finished at the show. I used up one entire of the Twilight Blue skein of yarn while I was at the show, working on her head and most of her body. And so I finished her up, did all the sewing and the spinal detail when I got home last night while I was watching TV and just kind of decompressing and winding down from the market. So that was my yesterday. That was my market. It was a lot of fun. I have another market coming up this weekend, like I said, Hubfest, and then I had already signed up for another market the following weekend, but that one's a smaller local one that I do every year called the Art Walk, and it's hosted by this local coffee shop in my little town. We've only got 1,000 people in our town. It's it's a small town. So it's a little like 4-hour market or something. It's very small, very short. And it's very laid back, and so that one will be very relaxing to do. And then I had signed up for the Meridian Sip and Savor event, which is April 12th, which would then be the weekend after the Art Walk, I think. But I still haven't heard back yet whether I got in, so we'll find out. So I may wind up doing 4 events in a row if I get into that one. Which is a lot. And I had kind of said last year that I didn't really want to do it that way again, but it just is how it kind of played out. But after that one, I wouldn't have any more for quite a while. The next one I even have scheduled is that August one. Um, unless I hear back from either Comic Con or the card show, which I applied to both of those, but I haven't heard back from either one. The last time I checked on the event page, because they're all run by the same coordinators, they have a page that lists all of the events that they do, and they're like in several states around surrounding the state, and then they have like colored dots next to them that show the status of completion, I guess. So if it has a red dot, that means they've already notified all their vendors and it's closed for applications. So neither one of those two shows have the red dot yet. Last I checked, I'll have to check again sometime. But I still haven't got any kind of confirmation, so I don't know whether I'll be in those. That would be in July. I think they're both in July, or one's in June and one's in July. So they'll be more spread out from here. You know, if I don't get into the Sip and Savor, fine. If I do, great. It'll be a rough 4 weeks, 4 shows in a row, but I'll get through it and it'll be fine. And then I'll have a pretty decently long break after that I can just kind of work up more stock for the August one. So that's my plan. Today we're gonna kind of take it easy. My youngest two kids are still at my mom's house. She kept them for me while I was at the show, so that's why there's a lot less chaos around here than usual. It's actually weirdly quiet in here. Like it's almost spooky. It's never this quiet. But I got into a pattern test. Actually, I'm in 2 pattern tests right now. I'm in a pattern test for Crochet by Jenna, her Dragon Snuggler pattern test. So I might work on that one. I have a lot of dragons though. I might work on that one today, or I might save that one for later this week. And then I got into the pattern test for the Hunter Boys, which is inspired by Sam and Dean from Supernatural, and I'm really excited about those. I'm probably just going to go ahead and jump in on those because I love that show so much. In fact, I'll probably watch that show while I work on those guys. So that's what I'm going to be doing here next after I get this video just crash edited and uploaded. I'm probably not going to do a whole lot of editing for this. And I hope you've enjoyed the show vlog and the clips from the show. And I will see you next week with some more show, it sounds like. Bye.